Ferrari may have just found the one upgrade Mercedes did not want to see before Austria. Not a small gain. Not a normal improvement. A power gain big enough to make the entire paddock look twice. And if the reports are right, Hamilton and Leclerc are not reacting like drivers who just received another routine update. They are reacting like two drivers who suddenly know Ferrari has something much more dangerous in its hands. Because Mercedes is already fighting reliability fears. Red Bull is already under pressure. McLaren is trying to stay close. And now Ferrari may have unlocked the kind of engine improvement that changes everything before the Austrian Grand Prix. But here is the real shock. A faster Ferrari does not just help Hamilton attack. It could completely change how Mercedes races. Because if Ferrari has truly tripled its engine power gain, Wolff cannot rely on track position, clean strategy, or Mercedes' early season advantage anymore. He has to worry about Hamilton on the straights, Leclerc in qualifying, and a Ferrari package that may have arrived at the worst possible moment for everyone else. So Austria is no longer just another race. It may be the weekend Ferrari stops chasing and starts threatening the entire championship. Subscribe to the channel. Ferrari should not be entering Austria with this kind of attention. That is what makes the story so dangerous. Because for most of the season, the championship pressure has been aimed somewhere else. Mercedes has been leading. Wolff has been answering questions about reliability. Russell and Antonelli have been dealing with lost points, battery fears, and the pressure of protecting a championship lead that suddenly looks less comfortable than it should. Ferrari, for a while, looked like the hunter. Close enough to matter. Fast enough to worry people. Reliable enough to stay alive. But not yet the team everyone feared most. Now, that could be changing. Because if Ferrari has really found a major engine gain before the Austrian Grand Prix, the entire shape of the weekend changes before the cars even leave the garage. And the reason is simple. Power changes confidence. It changes how a driver attacks a straight. It changes how late he can defend. It changes how much pressure he can put on the car ahead. It changes qualifying. It changes race starts. It changes strategy. It changes how rivals behave when they see red in their mirrors. And for Hamilton and Leclerc, that matters more than anyone. Because both drivers know what Ferrari has been missing at different moments. They know what it feels like to have a strong car that still needs one more weapon. They know what it feels like to be close, but not close enough. They know that in Formula 1, one upgrade can move a team from hoping for a chance to forcing everyone else to react. That is why the idea of Ferrari tripling its engine power gain sounds so dramatic. Not because one number magically wins a race, but because the timing is brutal. Austria arrives when Mercedes is already dealing with questions it did not want. The Mercedes car has pace, but the engine data and reliability pattern have created doubt. Russell has already lost a race from the lead. Antonelli has already suffered a sudden shutdown while running near the front. Wolff has already admitted that a team cannot fight for a championship if cars keep losing huge points every other race. That means Mercedes does not just need speed in Austria. Mercedes needs control. And a stronger Ferrari threatens that control immediately. Because a power gain does not only help Ferrari go faster. It forces Mercedes to make harder choices. If Hamilton is closer on the straights, Mercedes may have to defend earlier. If Leclerc is stronger in qualifying, Mercedes may lose the clean air it desperately wants. If Ferrari can attack without overworking the tires, Mercedes may be forced into strategy decisions it would rather avoid. That is how an upgrade becomes pressure. Not by winning the race on paper. By making the rival uncomfortable before the race has even settled. And this is where Hamilton becomes the most dangerous part of the story. Hamilton does not need to be told what extra power means. He has spent his career understanding tiny advantages and turning them into something bigger. Give him a car that is more confident on the straights, and he will use it to pressure braking zones. Give him better deployment, and he will use it to stay close when another driver expects to escape. Give him stronger race pace, and he will turn every lap into a question for the car ahead. Can you keep me behind? That is the kind of pressure Mercedes cannot afford right now. Because Mercedes is already dealing with uncertainty. And uncertainty becomes worse when a rival is close enough to attack. A team can manage risk more calmly when it has a gap. It can protect temperatures. It can choose safer settings. It can avoid unnecessary fights. It can control the pace. But when Hamilton is close, none of that is comfortable. If Mercedes backs off, Hamilton attacks. If Mercedes pushes, the reliability concern becomes louder. If Mercedes protects the car, Ferrari may take track position. If Mercedes defends too hard, the race becomes messy. And a messy race is exactly what a team with reliability questions does not want. That is why Ferrari's potential engine gain matters so much before Austria. It does not exist in isolation. It collides with Mercedes' weakness. It arrives at the exact moment Wolff needs stability. It arrives when Russell needs to rebuild trust. It arrives when Antonelli needs protection. It arrives when Hamilton has already shown that Ferrari can turn clean execution into serious championship pressure. And Leclerc matters here too. Because Leclerc with a stronger Ferrari is not just Hamilton's support act. He is a qualifying threat. He is a driver who can put a car in places that change the entire race map. If Leclerc starts near the front, Ferrari has options. If Hamilton is also close, Mercedes no longer deals with one red car. It deals with two. That is a very different problem. One Ferrari can be covered. Two Ferraris can split strategy. One Ferrari can be held behind if the race stays controlled. Two Ferraris can force Mercedes into defending on multiple fronts. And if Ferrari has truly added a major engine step, that pressure becomes even sharper at a circuit like the Red Bull Ring. Austria rewards power, traction, braking confidence, and clean exits. The lap is short, which means every tenth matters. A small gain can show up quickly because there are fewer places to hide. If a car is stronger out of corners and more dangerous down the straights, it can force the car ahead to defend earlier, use more tire, and compromise the next corner. That sounds like a small detail. It is not. That is how pressure builds. One defensive move becomes a worse exit. One worse exit becomes a bigger threat on the next straight. One lap of defending becomes 3 laps of overheating tires. 3 laps of overheating tires becomes a strategy problem. And suddenly, the upgrade is not just about power. It is controlling the rhythm of the race. That is what Ferrari will want in Austria. They will want Mercedes reacting instead of controlling. They will want Hamilton close enough to force mistakes. They will want Leclerc close enough to split Mercedes' attention. They will want the race to feel uncomfortable for Wolff, because discomfort is where championship leaders start making conservative choices. And conservative choices can be punished. This is the part that makes the timing so brutal for Mercedes. If Ferrari had brought this kind of gain when Mercedes looked completely bulletproof, it would still matter, but it would feel like a normal upgrade battle. One team improves, the other responds. That is Formula One. But Ferrari may be bringing this while Mercedes is already carrying doubt. That changes everything. Because when the leader has no weakness, an upgrade has to beat raw pace. But when the leader has a weakness, an upgrade only has to create pressure. Pressure exposes flaws. Pressure forces pushing. Pressure removes clean air. Pressure makes drivers defend. Pressure turns a technical concern into a race situation. And that is why Hamilton and Leclerc being speechless, or even just stunned by the size of the potential gain, would make sense inside this story. Drivers know when a car has changed. They can feel it in the throttle. They can feel it when the car pulls harder at the end of a straight. They can feel it when an overtake that looked impossible on the previous weekend suddenly becomes possible. They can feel it when the car gives them permission to be more aggressive. And confidence like that is dangerous. Because Formula One drivers do not need much encouragement. Give them a little more power, a little more belief, a little more evidence that the car underneath them is alive, and they will start asking questions of everyone ahead. Hamilton will ask Mercedes. Leclerc will ask Mercedes. Ferrari will ask Wolff. And Austria will ask the biggest question of all. Was Mercedes' championship lead built strong enough to survive Ferrari's sudden attack? That is why this first block matters. Before the deeper technical story, before the strategy picture, before the actual Austrian Grand Prix pressure begins, the emotional shift is already clear. Ferrari may no longer be arriving as the team waiting for Mercedes to make mistakes. Ferrari may be arriving as the team ready to force those mistakes. And if the engine gain is real, if Hamilton and Leclerc feel it immediately, if the red cars are suddenly stronger in the exact areas Austria rewards, then Mercedes has a problem much bigger than one rival getting faster. Mercedes has a rival becoming confident at the worst possible time. And confidence, in the hands of Hamilton and Leclerc, can turn one upgrade into a championship threat. But the deeper danger for Mercedes is not just that Ferrari may have found more power. It is what that power does to every weakness Mercedes is already trying to hide. Because an engine gain is never only an engine gain. In Formula One, extra power changes the way the whole race feels. It changes the confidence of the driver. It changes how aggressive the team can be with strategy. It changes the way rivals defend. It changes tire stress, braking pressure, overtaking chances, and even the psychology of the pit wall. A car with more power does not just move faster. It asks louder questions. Can the car ahead defend without destroying its tires? Can the leader manage temperatures while being attacked? Can the team in front protect the engine and still keep track position? Can the driver behind force a mistake without even completing the overtake? That is why Ferrari's reported gain becomes so dangerous before Austria. Because Mercedes does not want questions right now. Mercedes wants control. They want clean starts, clean air, stable temperatures, calm drivers, predictable strategy, and a race where their own reliability concerns do not become the main story again. But a stronger Ferrari attacks all of that at once. If Hamilton has more power on corner exit, he can stay closer before the straight. If Leclerc has more speed in qualifying, he can put himself into the fight from the beginning. If Ferrari's deployment is stronger, Mercedes may not be able to escape as easily after the first few laps. And if Mercedes cannot escape, then the whole Austrian Grand Prix becomes uncomfortable. Because the Red Bull Ring does not give teams much time to breathe. The lap is short. The margins are tiny. Every mistake comes back quickly. Every tenth matters. Every small loss at one corner can turn into pressure at the next braking zone. That is exactly where a power gain becomes dangerous. Imagine a driver exiting a corner with just a little more punch than before. It does not need to be massive to matter. That extra pull can close a gap. A smaller gap can open an attack. An attack can force the car ahead to defend. Defending can ruin the next exit. A ruined exit can create another attack. And suddenly, one extra burst of power is not just a number. It is a chain reaction. That is what Mercedes has to fear. Not only that Ferrari may be faster in a straight line, but that Ferrari may now be able to keep Mercedes under pressure for longer. And pressure is exactly what exposes the kind of problems Mercedes has been fighting. A team with a perfectly reliable car can absorb pressure differently. It can push, defend, counterattack, change modes, respond to undercuts, and race aggressively without constantly worrying that the car might not survive. But Mercedes is not in that emotional place right now. Mercedes has already lost major points through failures. Russell has already felt a race disappear from the lead. Antonelli has already seen a strong result vanish late in the race. Wolff has already admitted that losing huge points every other race is not championship-winning behavior. So if Ferrari arrives with more power, the question is not just whether Ferrari can attack. The question is whether Mercedes can respond without increasing its own risk. That is the trap. If Mercedes tells its drivers to push harder, the power unit concern becomes louder. If Mercedes tells its drivers to manage, Ferrari may attack harder. If Mercedes adds margin for reliability, it may give away speed. If Mercedes chases speed, it may reduce the safety cushion around the systems already under pressure. There is no clean answer. And that is why Hamilton and Leclerc become so important in this story. Because both drivers would use a power gain in different, dangerous ways. Hamilton is the pressure driver. He does not need to make every move immediately. He can sit close. He can make the car ahead nervous. He can show himself in the mirrors, lap after lap, until the defending driver starts thinking more about Hamilton than about his own race. That is one of Hamilton's greatest weapons. He turns presence into pressure. He makes a rival feel hunted. And if Ferrari now gives him more power, that presence becomes even harder to ignore. Mercedes knows this better than anyone. Wolff knows what Hamilton does when he smells weakness. He knows how patient Hamilton can be. He knows how quickly Hamilton can turn a small technical advantage into a psychological one. And before Austria, that should worry Mercedes. Because Hamilton does not need Mercedes to make a huge mistake. He only needs them to make the kind of small, defensive, nervous decisions that happen when a team is trying to protect too many things at once. Protect the championship lead. Protect the power unit. Protect Antonelli. Protect Russell's confidence. Protect track position. Protect the tires. Protect the strategy. That is too much protection. And when a team starts protecting everything, it can forget how to attack cleanly. Leclerc, on the other hand, brings a different kind of threat. Leclerc can make a weekend dangerous before the race even begins. If the Ferrari power gain gives him more confidence in qualifying, he can put the car higher on the grid. And at a circuit like Austria, that matters enormously. Starting position can decide whether a driver controls the race, or spends the afternoon fighting through traffic. Leclerc near the front changes Ferrari's entire strategic picture. It gives them options. One Ferrari can attack. The other can pressure strategy. One can force Mercedes to cover early. The other can extend a stint. One can make Russell defend. The other can threaten Antonelli. And if Mercedes has to split its attention between Hamilton and Leclerc, the race becomes much harder to control. That is when a team starts making compromises. And Formula One championships are often lost through compromises that looked reasonable at the time. Cover Hamilton, and Leclerc becomes a threat. Cover Leclerc, and Hamilton gets clean air. Protect Antonelli, and Russell may feel exposed. Give Russell freedom, and Antonelli's lead may come under pressure. Push the engine, and reliability becomes the fear. Manage the engine, and Ferrari becomes the danger. That is the chessboard Ferrari wants to create. Not just a faster car. A more complicated race for Mercedes. Because Mercedes is already carrying a heavy burden into Austria. Their lead is real, but the feeling around it has changed. Earlier in the season, their advantage looked like control. Now, after failures and lost points, it looks more fragile. And when a lead feels fragile, every rival improvement seems larger than it might have felt before.